So guys, good morning, and welcome to this particular Sales Mastermind. As you know, guys, the whole focus of this is helping you navigate through, achieve the best possible outcome you can through all of these twists and turns that are occurring. Now, I'm not sure you're aware, but something amazing has happened in the New South Wales market, and that is New South Wales announced over the weekend that open homes and auctions are going to be able to be run as of next weekend. Now, we haven't got all the details yet. I've had a chat with the head of REI New South Wales, Leanne Pilkington, and we're going to have her on the leaders line tomorrow. So we'll have more of a detail with that. But that's an incredibly great sign around it. I'm sure if we're not responsible in that particular mode, then there'll be a sort of like a brakes will go on that particular strategy. So we'll see how we go with that. We'll get more insight as to how it looks. It looks like there'll be limited numbers coming through, but a very, very important sort of level of momentum coming through and putting it in place. So awesome news from that point of view. And of course, New Zealand, you guys are now sort of, you can go shopping. You can go out, you can run you can do buyer showings. I think it's 2 buyer showings per day per property at this point in time. But nothing like a little bit of scarcity in there to make sure we're getting the right people coming through. And hopefully, guys, you picked up the 3 for 1 that we talked about last week, which is if someone requests 1 property to look at, make sure you're showing 3 properties. Why? That gives the law of contrast perspective. And by the way, if you show more, you will sell more property in the process. Chatting with Grant just before too, we actually officially started. Grant was talking about the tightness of stock in this particular market. So Grant, seeing how we go time-wise, I might come back to you. You can just give me a thumbs up to say you're okay with that. Thank you, Grant. And we'll talk a little bit about what you do. Half a thumb. I appreciate it to kick into it. Now, today we've got a special guest in David Palfreyman. David, I hope I pronounced that correctly. David started really his real estate career when he was 18, so an absolute whippersnapper. 7 years in real estate in terms of a sales agent, then moved into a training role and a managing role of an office with the Barfoot and Thompson Group. So if you know Barfoot and Thompson in New Zealand, they're an absolute machine in the Auckland marketplace. So it's fantastic, David, to have you here. The format of today, guys, is I'm going to do an interview with Dave up front, get a sense of what he's seeing the best agents do. David now works with a lot of agents and leaders in the New Zealand marketplace and helping them navigate and achieve the best possible outcomes around that. So, Dave, great having you here. You'll need to unmute yourself.
Thanks, Michael.
Yep. So, hey, look at Sharpie. I'm in a black T-shirt here, and you're suited up, man. Like immediately I'm feeling like So
you're looking good, Michael.
Thank you. So last week David did an interview with me and talked with some of his clients around what I'm seeing. And Dave, that was loads of fun. And thank you for returning the favour and having a chat with our clients and members around this. Now let David know we do this session every single week. So this is a really neat level of momentum. And the 2 big things that Dave, we thought would be really useful is, number one, you guys in New Zealand are a week out of the level 4 isolation kind of thing. You're not quite at the level 3 that we have been at in Australia, but it'd be neat to see, number one, what you're seeing the best agents doing over there. And then secondly, what's your, 3 best pieces of advice for our great members here to really, capitalize is sometimes the wrong word to use, but ensure that they're putting the right things in place to get the best outcome possible.
Yeah, hey, let's talk about that current environment. And thank you, by the way, for having me here. Very happy to return the favour. And I really hope that you're listening in will pick up some ideas from this and see results in your own business. The first piece that I would make is that there's been a massive environmental shift, and it's still a different climate out there than it was entering into this thing. And whenever there is such a change in the environment, it can disrupt us internally. And the most important thing to remember with real estate is that this is 100% a people business. And so we communicate in so many different ways, but without getting all airy-fairy on it, actually people pick up on our energy and pick up on how we are. And it's so important to actually focus on yourself here and realize that this is a storm. I'm going to tell you a quick story because I think it has such relevance to what we're going through. There's two guys, actually Kiwi guys, who they sailed an Atlantic rowing race. So sail is the wrong word. They rowed across the Atlantic Ocean. I think it's like 5,000 kilometers. It's a massive distance. But not long after actually putting out to sea, they're on the way across the ocean, and there's a massive storm approaching. And so race support and their team support basically give them the heads up that there's a huge storm brewing and they are going to need to batten down the hatches. There's a couple of things that you can do when you're in a storm at sea, particularly when you're in a little rowing boat. One is that you can throw a sea anchor over. And it turns out that this is pretty much what all the teams did. And the sea anchor basically drags in the ocean and hopefully stops you from getting blown too far off course. But these two guys, Kevin Bigger and Jamie Fitzgerald, they decided that they would actually just keep rowing. And they adapted their schedule slightly so that they could row through the night so that they wouldn't get blown backwards, so they didn't have an anchor overboard, but they would just keep rowing. And a couple of days go by, and the storm is huge, by the way. And they check back in with race support, and they're looking at their GPS, which is really the only thing they've got to go on. They can't see where the other boats are, but they can see themselves, and they haven't moved. The GPS, they've literally made no progress. But when they check in with their team support says, "You guys are doing amazing. Keep it up. Whatever you're doing, it's working so well. Keep going." And the reality is that the storm came through and blew everyone massively off course. And in fact, they ended up, even though they didn't feel like they had made any traction, they were actually now 30 miles ahead of the competition. And wow. I think the relevancy here is that we do experience storms in our personal and in our business life. And with this scenario, it's probably affecting both. But the mistake is to batten down the hatches and go into hibernation mode, but rather focus on what you can control and keep rowing. The end of that story is that they did actually win the race, and they won it by a margin of, guess what, 30 miles. So I don't know if it was just that one tactic. There's a lot more to the race. I think it's talking about 30 days. But this is a long-term game. You need to look after your energy, work out what your schedule is. And Michael, I know we're laughing about me being in a suit jacket, but for me, it helps to have some contextual cues. So if you are finding it hard to have those contextual cues because perhaps you're no longer working in the office, you're doing more work from home, make yourself a routine, draw up a contract between you and your partner or your family as to when I'm working, when I'm helping, all those other pieces, adapt to the environment that you're in, have those contextual cues, and focus on what you can do rather than on what's changed. So that's probably that first piece is all about your energy. But if you want to peel that back a little bit further, there's a whole lot of different things. And depending on who you are and exactly what sort of personality you are, what you've likely done through this. And I know a lot of my clients entering into we were in basically lockdown for 5 weeks. We didn't know, we were told it was going to be 4 and they'd reassess. But they've come out of this with the garage has been cleaned out. The shed's been decluttered, they've mowed the lawn 20 times, but they've done the same thing with their client base. And this is a fantastic time, even now, to actually be going, well, who are those people in my database? And you can have a non-real estate conversation with anyone that you've got there. Use the time to actually clean that up and make sure you know what category people are in, and offer to help. The energy that you bring to the table of, rather than pursuing your agenda, but genuinely caring and listening to see, well, how can you help others? It leads to the greatest opportunities. The difficulty of looking for listings right now is that you're looking for something that could be available to you in the near future, but by hustling too hard for it to make it happen right now, you potentially burn the future opportunity. So really, I guess the coaching here is to think long-term, look after your energy, and keep lining up opportunities by listening for what's important to the other person, rather than just trying to pursue your own agenda. Yeah. So that's point one.
David, I think this is so valuable. So there's two biggies with this. One thing that we talk about, guys, and this is such a good reinforcement of it, is that we're not looking for listings, we're looking for listing opportunities. And a big component to that is to see where is someone at and what are they doing. Now, guys, we talked about some dialogue last week, which is you could be right dialogue, where someone turns around and says, I'm not thinking of moving until later on because I think this is the situation we're going to be in. Look, you could be right. Let me give you a slightly different view on that. And rather than saying, no, you're wrong, I don't believe that's the case. You could be right. Here's another view on that. The other one, David, that I think sits so beautifully, and it's on your first point of the guys rowing across the Atlantic, is the team that plays conditions best wins. It's not the best team. The team that plays the conditions best wins. So it's how do we play these conditions the best in this particular mode? Such strong insights to start us off with. So awesome.
Yeah. Hey, the next piece is that, and you touched on this, and I really like you could be right. When people are asking you, how's the market? You've got to be prepared for this question. And you actually want this question. If you're actually engaging with people proactively rather than just the reactive, then the moment you get this, well, what's happening in the market is a great opportunity. But you need to understand that the market is different for everyone. It depends. So rather than having a bit of an elevator pitch on what we're seeing right now, first you need to qualify a little bit further. So the point being that whether you've got somebody who's asking you, or you've started to probe a little bit and they're saying, oh yeah, so what is happening there? You need to find out what their scenario is. Delve straight into it and just say, well, that depends. Are you buying, selling? What is your situation? And when you understand a little bit more about whether they're buying or selling, you can give them some better advice. And of course, you need to be prepared for this one because the scenario is quite frequent. Oh, I guess I'm just curious to know what's happening. But you can go a little bit further rather than being pushed back at that point. You need to say, oh, okay, can I ask, are you curious about your property or the property of someone that you love? Or are you just curious about what's happening to the community house prices? And at this point, you can then provide a little bit more insight. But there are going to be opportunities out there that you may miss if you're not listening and reading between the lines. So I'd love you to just stop and have an automatic response, not to be a robot, but just to go, well, the next time somebody is asking me how's the market, realize this could be an opportunity in disguise, and how you answer it affects your ability to effectively progress that person. So if they're checking to see, can I ask, are you buying, selling? See what the response is, and then peel it back further. Even if it's, oh, I'm just curious. Oh, are you curious about your property or someone you know? Or are you just interested to know what's happening in the community? And use that to try and put people into the scenario. The other piece that you mentioned, Michael, and this is so true about the reality of what's happening in the market, you do need to know this. So check what is going on in your local market. Have a look on whatever real estate website you're following that shows all the new listings to the market, and become an absolute guru on what is going on in terms of stock in and out from the market, because then you can speak with some authority. Because the next person that says to you, how's the market? And you say, well, I guess that depends a little bit on your situation. Can I ask, are you buying or selling? And so, oh, no, we just sort of keeping an eye on things. Okay, well, are you curious about your property or someone you know, or just interested in your property prices? Oh, we're interested in property prices. We had thought about potentially buying something, maybe pick up another investment property, but we're just waiting to see what's happening. Well, now you can talk with some authority. So, and Michael, you said this, it's like, oh, hang on a second, let me just go check my crystal ball. But I can tell you what's happening right now is that we actually have record low interest rates. The bank has removed, the Reserve Bank has removed the requirement for equity. So you may be able to purchase and expand what you're planning to do from an investment perspective better now than you could a month ago. So can I ask, have you seen anything you like? And this conversation needs to shift to qualifying people rather than trying to sell to people. On the buyer front, you absolutely need to have your buyers home. So what I mean is, who has actually both got capacity and desire to shift right now? And you want to look for people that have a sense of urgency to be doing these things, but you don't want that qualification to feel like an interrogation. So qualification should be a natural conversation. You know what you need to find out, but rather than asking someone, are you pre-approved to purchase? Have you made any offers? You can start this conversation more naturally. So ask them, is it okay if I take a couple of moments to understand your situation better? Get their permission, and then ask them the simplest, easy question. Have you seen anything you liked? Great. What happened with that? Or no. Oh, okay. Well, tell me a little bit more about your ideal scenario. But you want to peel back the layers. And if you find out through this process that, oh yeah, they did see something that they liked 2 months ago. Oh, what happened? You didn't purchase. Oh no, look, we went along and watched the auction, but we weren't able to bid because we didn't have our finance sorted. Oh, okay. Have you had that sorted now? And the great scenario that we can actually go into a little more hard from this is that there's, at least I'm not sure about the Australian rules, but here in New Zealand, the REA website literally says that private inspections should be for those who are considering making an offer. And that's from our regulatory body. So use the scarcity and the difficulty with which to bring people through to kind of create a little bit of
नहीं
a
दूसरी हेल्प कर
playmaster
सकते
gear.
हैं ऐसा नहीं है मैं
Yeah.
Sorry, Steve.
Yep.
And
no, I'll just mute with that, I think.
And then the other piece to this is that whilst the weather's changed, nothing else has. I don't mean to say that facetiously, but vendors never wanted to come to the market. They never looked forward to having to spend 10 grand to market
David,
their
you
house.
might just need to repeat.
Okay, I'll cover that again.
David, you might. Dave, you might just need to repeat that. It sounds like you might just need to repeat that. But by the way, a couple of things that I'm loving around this is, firstly, you did a fantastic job of talking about how we're tuning in versus how we're broadcasting. I think that's actually a really important distinction with that. And the other thing, I don't know if you even know that you mentioned it, is becoming a market guru. So, if there is ever a time to be a market guru, so the quality of your conversations in the background can be absolutely strong. Can I just get a thumbs up, guys, that you can see me and hear me okay? Okay, awesome. Yeah, great. The other one that's important with that is that you said the capacity and the desire around this, but doing it in a very respectful way, as opposed to you for finance, which is on that hard question side of it, rather than making it very, very conversational in that mode. And the final point that I think is super valid with this is, typically in most markets, Australia, New Zealand, we're seeing less buyers come into the market. So we can actually have a higher quality of conversation and not leave it like, after an open home. So do you like the property? Yes, no, okay, see you later. We're having a different quality of conversation, an engagement conversation that I think has a massive impact on the ability to transact more and uncover more opportunities coming out of it, which is great.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, on that market guru piece, I'm glad you flagged it. There's a couple of things that you need to know and track carefully. The days on market, the volume of transactions, so the actual number of transactions in your marketplace, and the volume of new stock that's coming on. Because this is the sort of stuff that you can help to guide somebody in terms of making an educated decision. Because if their belief is that they might wait and see what's happening to the market, perhaps before coming to the market, because they think, oh, there's a lot of negativity out there, we'll just wait a little bit and then we'll enter the market. The reality is the market's influenced by supply and demand. And I don't know about your individual market, but a lot of the ones that my clients are operating in, we've actually got low levels of stock, which means for a client, the opportunity to enter the market in isolation rather than competition is a huge one. And certainly what we see looking back at other disruption events like this, I remember selling through the GFC, and it was a rather soft entry in the sense that you're sitting there as a salesperson, and confusion was the first thing that we really felt, because I, as a young guy, never been through anything like this in my life. And all of a sudden the open homes, which I used to have 30 people queued out the door to come through, well, now I'm sitting there and there's no one turning up, and my clients have paid for huge marketing, and I'm going, what's happening? And the mistake with that is to think, right, I need to change my approach from being a listing agent to working with buyers. No, yes, work with buyers, but you mustn't shift your tactic. The principles of actually focusing on having quality stock and working with vendors and a trusting relationship to help them get what they need is so effective in this marketplace. But you do have a little problem. So especially for the volume that's dropping back here with buyers, is it's harder to bring the numbers through to present market feedback to the clients. So what I'm coaching my guys on at the moment is to really treat that virtual inspection as a virtual inspection, rather than just sending them the link and whatever, see what happens. Sell the virtual appointment. Hey, I'm going to send you a private link. This is not the promotional video. This is a virtual walkthrough through the property. I want you to give me a call while you're watching this if you've got any specific questions so I can answer them. And then I'll check in and see how it went after you've had a time to think about it. And if you're not getting the call back, follow up with them just like you would coming through an open home and say, hey, did you have a chance to take through the home? Yes, fantastic. What are your thoughts? Would you like to book a private appointment? Oh no, look, we think we'll pass. Oh, can I ask why is that? Get some feedback at that point in just the same way you would as you would if you were taking someone through. Ask for some feedback on what would you pay for that property? Based on what you've seen, what would you pay for that property? And use this so you can actually present some really useful feedback to your clients, even from the people that haven't physically inspected the property.
Yeah, that's great. So an important point there is I love this, David, to have something that's not available on the website, but the client can then go through, or the buyer can then go through, classing that as a virtual inspection, and then being able to utilize that virtual inspection, whether it's right for them or not, as feedback to the owner in that particular process. So awesome from that point of view. Great.
Yeah, and we are still running virtual open homes. So actually still going down there to the property, setting it up as a live stream, either on your Facebook or Zoom or whatever you're going to do, and have people register to look through this thing virtually with you there. Another point, and I started to make it when I think the connection went a little dicey, but whilst the weather has changed, nothing else has. And I don't mean that facetiously and that you're not paying attention to people's circumstances, but rather just understand that vendors in the past, they were never excited about having to get the photographer through and having to get staging and having to pay thousands of dollars for marketing. But they did have an interest in a sale. And so working a list of curated buyers that we touched on before, they have the ability, the capacity, and the desire, the urgency to do something. Use those as prospecting tools. So when you're on the phone to people, when you're walking through your pipeline, when you're following up, use that opportunity for a sale rather than, hey, let's talk about bringing your property to market. Just go straight with the buyers and just say, look, at the moment, we do have some restrictions. It's possible that I may have the perfect buyer for you in my books right now. Can I ask, would I be able to mention your property to them, or should I send to another property? And just see what the response is, because if there's some desire there, it may be perfect for one of your buyers off market. I'm not coaching you here to go and pick up a whole bunch of off market listings and transactions, but it's a great place to start. And it's a great catalyst for bringing people through and progressing them onto the market. And you can do the same thing with your buyers.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and I think one of the things that does do, David, it actually lets you know, well, it can, in a way of testing, to say, hey, can we actually have a conversation, bring that sale forward? And for some people, it's go, no, I've got a 72-year-old mum who lives at my place. There's no way, nothing's going to happen until 2021. Thank you very much. Okay, great. We're now parking that as a long-term listing opportunity and working with the ones that are in the more in the now kind of mode. On this, David, have you got any sort of suggestions? And we're sort of like, Grant and I were having a bit of a chat before we officially started the session today around that uncovery of opportunities. In a lot of markets around Australia and New Zealand for that matter, stock is tightening up. So have you got any strategies or suggestions how we can maybe either stimulate that, uncover that? Clearly one of our recommended strategies is growing market share. If there's less market, we've got to go for more share of that particular market. But any strategies that you've got that you'd recommend around that?
Yeah, hey, so the first one's probably the most aggressive strategy. And just because there's less stock on the market or low levels of stock on the market, there are still properties that have been on the market before this even came into effect. So don't be shy to talk to anyone that is already listed, but with a different agency. And the approach to this has got to be tactful. So you're not going in there to try and see if you can win the listing. You're going in there to talk to a person. So if you can track down their details, if you already have their details, following up on those, anything that's on the market, to just understand, hey, can I help you find a property? Take the approach that they're not expecting. And then if there is some discussion there, or they're asking you advice for things, just check. And this is specific to New Zealand, but you mustn't interfere with the sole agency here. And so therefore, it's just a case of asking, well, can I ask, are you on a sole agency, or can I potentially help you? There's also it will depend a little bit on your individual markets, but certainly right across New Zealand, there's been a slow trickle of properties that have been taken over for Airbnb use. And I would be looking through Airbnb listings where you could find, looking at properties that you know are used for that kind of thing, and actually approach and just ask, hey, how's it going? As well as properties that have come on the market for rent. So many of those new listings for rent, we've seen, whilst the listing numbers haven't been massively boosted, there's been a flurry of those properties being converted into available for rent. Some of these properties will be sold. And then the other piece to this is anything around activity. So because the market is so sensitive at the moment, and that's why I mentioned to you earlier, being prepared for that question, hey, what's happening in the market is so important. But whenever you've actually got something happening in the market, whether that be a new listing come to market, or something that you have successfully sold, or someone in your area has, using that activity as a prospecting tool, it's not a new strategy. People have been talking about this for a long time. But it's highly effective at the moment because they're so curious. Oh, what did it go for? What was the interest like? And having the ability to talk to that is a huge opportunity. So making sure that you're actually focusing on the things that you can control, looking for things that you can bring into your pipeline in much the same way that you used to. Cherry pick some of this low-hanging fruit, because not all salespeople have been proactive over the last 6 weeks, and there are disgruntled owners out there who feel like the reason their property hasn't sold is the agent's fault. Pick up some of the opportunities that may be created in your marketplace, where things that were being used for short stay accommodation are now being promoted available for rent or may sell. And don't forget, anything that happens, that is a great prospecting opportunity. Hey, would you like to know what this sells for? Or on the pickup, once it has sold, hey, did you see number 22 just sold? Did you hear what it made? It went for X. What does that make your place worth? And if it's your own, property that's sold, using the buyer analogy, hey, we had 32 inquiries on that property. Of course, only one could buy. I realize it's a long shot, but have you had any thoughts of selling?
Yeah, great. And I love the way your dialogue sort of rolls out. It's just it's brilliant. And also, David, the line success activity. So any success activity, the market wants to know about that. So whether it's 100%. Yours or whether it's someone else's, if you actually communicate it, then you really own it, because you're the one who's delivering that information, which is that trusted advisor taking the authority position in the marketplace, because you know what you're actually doing.
Yeah, I'm so glad you clarified this, because the mistake is to think that just because some other agency sold it, that you can't be talking about it. No, as long as you know what's going on, great talking point. And this is for your existing client base or an opportunity to create new connections.
And back to Market Guru. See, Market Guru would know, as opposed to, oh, I can't talk about that because it's not my sale. Well, why wouldn't you? I'm coming to you for my market knowledge. And one of the things I've spoken with the guys about before, David, is being the client's knowledge source for property. So that frequency, and there's less face-to-face meetings now that are happening, and there's a lot of Zoom meetings happening, although that's actually creeping back in. But typically we've got more time, so we can actually make more connections. And if we start to play that game, it's about making sure we've got the quality of the conversation in there that's building that momentum coming forward, which is great. David, if you were coaching these guys, what would be your 3 biggest pieces of advice? It might be what we've already covered, but just sort of in wrapping up, I know we've got sort of like about a half hour with you in terms of this morning. What would be your 3 biggies?
So number 1 is just shifting your focus to the leading indicators of success. So this is the just keep growing piece. Rather than stressing about the number of sales you need to make, think about the number of connections you need to make. How many conversations am I having? And then focus those appointments that you do generate, whether that be you're agreeing to meet for a coffee over Zoom, or whether it's an actual inspection. Focus those on really understanding and listening between the lines So the word empathy gets bandied around a lot, but empathy simply means a understanding for how someone is feeling. And it's not just enough to understand it, you have to label it. So when you are picking up that someone is feeling stressed out, then you can test to make sure that your kind of read on the room is accurate by using something like, it seems like you're under a lot of pressure right now, and that everything's changed and it's really giving you a lot of uncertainty. And it doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong. If that's what your kind of intuition was telling you, throw it out with a label, but just use a softener like it seems like, or it sounds like, or it looks like, because you can't be wrong, because you're just saying, oh, it seemed like, and they say, oh, no, we're fine. You go, oh, okay, that's good. But you'll learn something by throwing these things out. And when people are opening up and talking to you about how they feel, use some little conversation extenders, and a technique called mirroring is a great way to do this, where you listen carefully for what they're saying, and you just use the last couple of words of that sentence and exactly the same words that they used. So, oh, no, things are fine. And then they'll qualify that a little bit more for you. So you just want to listen to understand their situation. And then I guess the third point that I'd make is, if your market feels like it's changed, it very well may have. But at the same token, for a lot of people, it's just too early to tell. So rather than focusing too much on whether you've absolutely nailed this as it's going to be a great seller's market, or it's going to be terrible, or it's going to be a good buyer's market, forget it. Focus on what you do know. Listen for their situations and see how you can help them. And then I think the third point would just be that it doesn't matter whether you're in a buyer's market or a seller's market or somewhere in between. He who controls the stock controls the market. And it's absolutely critical that you don't let a shift in the environment shift your strategy. You need to take market share of listings. Market share of listings brings you the buyers, helps you to find the ones that can move. And absolutely don't neglect the buyers, but you still need to maintain a listing focus. I hope that's helpful to you guys.
Yeah, it's been absolutely awesome. Guys, can we give David a round of applause, virtual round of applause, thumbs up? Yeah, boom. David, just great. I love also the tonality in your voice. So I can imagine when you've got someone who is a buyer and seller, and we talked about this last week around the 3 C's. People won't commit if there's not a confidence in them. It's easy for me not to act than for me to act if I don't have confidence. So commitment is based on that level of confidence. So we talked about confidence, clarity, and certainty, and putting that into play. Everything you've done today is about putting in confidence, clarity, and certainty into the process, which is absolutely awesome. Getting some great feedback coming through here. Really great points there, David. Thank you. Love it. And so on. Guys, we're going to go into some breakout rooms now, and let David sort of zoom on with his day. What I'd love you to do is just what resonated from what David had to talk about, and what are you doing within your marketplace? Now, a couple of points with the breakouts, right? No negativity. It's only positive conversation. So if you've got nothing positive to say, you're going to zip it and you're going to tune in and listen to your colleagues who are doing some great things. But if you can start to think about everything that David has gone through and put in place, there's a brilliant framework there for you to increase your level of success. So, David, hey, thanks for tuning in. Hey, if the guys want to connect...
Thanks for having me, Michael.
David, if the guys want to connect in with you, what's the best way to connect?
Yeah, hey, look, I'm on social media, so you can find me on Facebook. My website's my name, David Palfreyman. You're welcome to track me down, send me a message, give me a call, DM through Facebook or Insta or anything like that. And I tell you what, I'd love if you pick something out of this, or you want to clarify a concept, or if you just want to have a debate about something that you think I'm off the wazoo with, then always love to hear from you. And thanks again. All the best with your businesses, guys, and go out there and do it.
And guys, will we get a thumbs up that we'd love to have David back again? Just yes, yeah. Okay, awesome.
Well, thanks so much. Love to see you again. Cheers.
That's brilliant. Hey, thanks, David. Really appreciate it. Yeah.
Cheers, Michael.
So
See
guys,
ya.
Thank you. So, guys, let's jump into breakouts. When we get into the breakouts, two things. Number one, what were the key things that resonated and that will actually work for you in your marketplace? So, upgrades, tweaks, enhancements. The second point is tune in and listen to what's working in your marketplace. What are you doing that's working right now? And the third thing is no negativity, only positive news coming through with it. When we come back, I really would love to see in the chat some of the key things that you've got as the biggest takeaways from this particular session. The other thing is you need to join the breakout and make sure you unmute your mic so you can actually hear and talk from there. So let's jump in and into breakouts. Here we go. Ready to go, guys. Enjoy. Join the breakouts. Jump into breakouts. If I can see you're not in a breakout yet, guys. So guys, how'd you go? Thumbs up, good breakouts. Love to get your sense in chat. What were the key things that came through? Love the new glasses, by the way. Oh, not my glasses. That's Grant's glasses. Thanks for that one, Bronny. So great breakout. Guys, just share with me, what are your biggest takeaways from this? And then we'll wrap the session. So, and I'll just read these through as we go through. So just pop these into chat. Your biggest takeaways that you're definitely putting in place. Just keep rowing. Yeah, what a fantastic metaphor that was. Love to hear what others experience. Yeah, love the rowing. Great, John. The empathy side of things coming in. Yeah, brilliant. Enter the market in isolation rather than in competition. Great. More empathy coming into play. Learning to understand the position of the vendors more clearly and showing empathy. Understanding your local market. Think the long-term game, and teams play the best conditions win. Move forward with empathy. Working on the database, making sure that we're finding more future listing opportunities, building the connections, read between the lines, focus on the number of connections, not the number of appointments, look at for opportunities, not just listings. Great. The message to keep focus on the long game and the listing focus. It seems like conversation starters. Yeah, great. Control the listings, control the market. Yeah. How's the market discussion? Depends on what you're looking for. Can you tell me more about that? Awesome. Great conversation starter. Keep the focus on listings and play the long game. Okay. Awesome, guys. Awesome. So one of the commitments that we have with the masterminds is to bring in guests. Next week, we're going to be doing it internally. So you're going to hear from one of your own who are doing some great things in the negotiation space and also bringing great stock into the market. So, hey, thanks for tuning in, guys. Really appreciate your energy and effort. The most important thing, I believe, after this is to do a debrief as a team, because you'll go away individually and do some great work on this. You debrief this as a team and say, okay, as a team, where are the things that we can look? This success activity, are we utilizing success activity in the most effective way? If we are, great. If we're not, okay, is that an opportunity for us to upgrade this and put this in place and enhance this from that point of view? Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Really appreciate your energy, your commitment and your effort, and tuning into these on a weekly basis, I think is building some amazing momentum, not only in your learning, but in what you're doing on a weekly basis. Yes, I know there's a lot of other webinars and inputs coming through. If you can come back to this as a framework for us to help you build your success on a long-term basis, then that is absolutely key to unlock your performance. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and have a brilliant rest of this week. Bye for now.